Senator Wells, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you, Speaker. I did have a question earlier, but then I realized as critic I have 45 minutes to say what I want. But I assure you I won't be 45 minutes. But I do want to begin my remarks by a couple of comments on the previous interventions from Senator Wells, Alberta, and my colleagues across. This is about informed consent. This isn't about an emergency procedure, which happens obviously regularly in hospitals unexpectedly. So this is about informed consent, where there's knowledge, where there's forethought, where there's consideration given. And of course, in an emergency, there's not always that. So I think there's obviously the law would have some flexibility there. Secondly, I had, when I embarked on this, not with Senator Boyer, I'm not in that league, but when I was at Human Rights Committee a couple of years ago when this was first addressed, and other colleagues will have heard me say this before, I didn't plan on being even conversant in the topic. And Senator Boyer has led me down a path where, first of all, I was shocked to know that this still happened. I thought when we were doing the study at Human Rights Committee, we were going to look at some remnant of the past. And when I learned that there was, in excess of 12,000 documented cases, and colleagues among us, this was something that became more important than would normally be of importance to me. So thank you, Senator Boyer, for all you've done. Honourable Senators, I rise to speak at third reading of Bill S-228. This is the same bill, as we heard from Senator Delphine, this is the same bill that passed third reading here in the last Parliament and was sent to the House. With the prorogation of Parliament, the bill's precursor, S-250, died on the order paper. It's worth noting that the Senate has examined this bill thoroughly a number of times. We've debated it at second reading twice, we've studied it at committee twice, and it was amended by the sponsor, Senator Boyer, after careful reflection and advice from colleagues and from witnesses. As Senator Boyer explained in her testimony before the committee last week, quote, in the previous Parliament, after hearing from colleagues on the LCJC committee, departmental experts, survivors, medical associations, Indigenous midwives, and legal specialists, it was clear that both senators and witnesses had concern about the broad drafting of the original version of Bill S-250 and the potential for unintended consequences. And of course, colleagues, here at our Chamber of Second Sober Thought, we try to look ahead to the unintended consequences and what might happen, and we try to mitigate that within the wording of the law, within the wording of the legislation. After hearing these concerns, this is continuing the quote, after hearing these concerns, I consulted with the Minister of Justice and his department to develop the amendment that significantly simplified the bill while maintaining the core goal, to make it explicitly clear in the criminal code that sterilizing someone without consent is aggravated assault under section 268 sub 1. This amendment was unanimously adopted by LCJC, this committee, on October 19th, 2024, end quote. I want to thank again Senator Boyer for her persistence and her dedication and her education, really, of all of us, and in championing this bill, and even more importantly, for providing a voice to the voiceless. She has shown what it means to be a senator, standing up for minority voices in our country. It is our most important job here in the Senate, and one of the main reasons this institution was established. It should be Senator Boyer is an inspiration to us all. I was encouraged to hear that many of the victims of forced sterilization followed our proceedings. That's rare. I am pleased that they did not have to go through the ordeal of testifying again this time around. And colleagues, in the initial study that we had in the Human Rights Committee, some of our witnesses chose not to give their names. Others chose to appear as silhouette. So it must be difficult. It's a difficult circumstance at the best of times, and then you have the cameras of the world on you, and makes it even more difficult to relive that again. And I thank the committee members for sparing them the burden and for moving the bill forward quickly. I've often spoken about the risk of unintended consequences in legislation, and that's why I appreciated Senator Boyer's recognition of this concern in the amended version. She listened to witnesses, to senators, to the medical community, and to government lawyers. The result is a bill narrower in scope than the original. It does not amend the criminal code, but it clarifies clearly and directly that sterilization without consent is aggravated assault. It always was, but now the law leaves no room for doubt. And I'd also caution colleagues, if we decided to not adopt this in the Senate and move it to the other place, what message would that be sending to medical practitioners around the country? Having said this, no one can possibly account for all the unintended consequences of a bill. Unintended is often because it's unforeseen, which is why legislation and lawmaking is a journey and not a destination. And while it's another one of the reasons that the Senate exists as an institution to review legislation that almost invariably amends previous legislation, which is frequently, although not always obviously, being amended because of unintended consequences or changing circumstances. And that's what we have in this case now. Honourable Senators, in this case, I can accept the possibility of remote or unlikely unintended consequences. At some point, the pursuit of perfection becomes the enemy of good. And when critics suggest that this bill might have a chilling effect on some medical professionals, then I consider that good news. Sometimes a chilling effect on what some perceive as normal is exactly what's needed. With that, honourable colleagues, if there are no questions for me, I would like to call a question on this bill.
Are senators ready for the question? Is it your pleasure, honourable senators, to adopt the motion? Carried. Adopté.
Third reading of this bill, troisième lecture de ce projet de loi.
Ordered that this message be sent to the House of Commons to acquaint that House that the Senate has passed this bill to which it desires they are